Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Ghosts and That. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's listened to every single episode, that's liked a post, shared a post, followed me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, listened to the podcast on YouTube and Spotify. I really appreciate it, and I just hope everybody's enjoying it. It does take a lot of work, and yeah, I'm enjoying doing it. I just hope you're enjoying listening to it. I've had a quick sneak peek at the listening figures, and to be fair, for somebody that's only been doing this a couple of months, they're not half bad. I think I'm doing alright. It's steadily growing every single week, and that's all I can ask for. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to be talking about any of my experiences. We're not interviewing anybody. I've had 3 listener stories sent in, and I've written them out, I've scripted them, but I ain't going to read the scripts because I listened to previous episodes that I've done that are scripted, and I think I sound like a 5-year-old in a school play. So what I've done is I've asked Sophie to read the stories for you, because basically she's 10 times better than me at reading a script out. These 3 stories I've got for you today, they're only very short, but in my opinion they're pretty hard hitters. The stories you're going to remember, the stories that are probably going to stick in your head for a couple of days, and they're going to make you just question everything. I've obviously kept the people's names out of the stories because the names aren't important. It's what they experience. It's what's kept them up at night. It's what's left them questioning reality and the possibilities of what is going on around us that some people will never experience, but these people have experienced these things, and I think they're hard to ignore. So now I'm going to pass you over to Sophie, and she's going to read all 3 stories one after the other. After you've listened to these stories, leave us a comment. You tell me what you think, and if you've got any stories like this that you want to share, all you have to do is email me at ghostsandthat@gmail.com. Get onto Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Just send me a message. Let's get your story on here. Maybe somebody might have an understanding of what's going on. You never know. This is why we do this, and this is why we're sharing these stories. So now I'm going to hand you over to Sophie.
I'm not much of a believer when it comes to the paranormal and ghosts, but what happened to a friend of my family made me think twice about what lies beyond the realms of possibility. A friend of my family bought a house in the suburbs of Manchester. After moving, they obviously wanted to make some changes to the house to suit their needs. The friend asked my dad to make and install a linen cupboard at the top of the stairs. He obliged and made the cupboard. Everything was fine until one evening there was a rumbling sound heard on the landing. It was the cupboard. The friend went to inspect where the sound was coming from. It was from inside the cupboard. As she opened the doors, the rumbling stopped. This happened often. She heard the rumbling. She opened the doors. The rumbling stopped. They thought it was the sound from maybe central heating pipes under the floor, but after inspection, there were no pipes under the cupboard. Nothing that could cause the rumbling. If it was traffic from outside on the busy road, then surely more things in the house would be vibrating or rumbling. Then the friend noticed a pattern. When it happened, it was at 7 p.m. in the evening, more or less every evening. She didn't really think anything of it until she decided to do some research on the house. Apparently, in the 1800s, there was a death on the property. She found out that a young girl of 7 or 8 years old suffocated after her father locked her in a cupboard in the house. Is the rumbling the tortured spirit of that poor young girl? She will never know. She removed the cupboard, then moved out of the house shortly after. These experiences go back a few years ago at the house of my ex-girlfriends. I don't know much about the house, only that it was built on the consecrated grounds of an old graveyard. I imagine the reason for the removal of the graveyard was to accommodate more houses in the ever-growing area. Obviously, I won't reveal where this house is. I know my ex and her family had had a few experiences in this house. This one was told by my ex-girlfriend's mother. My ex-girlfriend's mother and the rest of the family were fast asleep. It was just a normal night. The house was quiet. After a few hours of being asleep, she was woken up by what she could only describe as voices. Quiet voices of what sounded like children whispering. Confused, she climbed out of the bed to investigate. As she walked down the hallway towards these voices, they seemed to be getting ever so slightly louder with every step. She hears that the whispering is coming from behind the door of her baby son's bedroom. She placed her ear against the door, and all she could hear were the voices of two young children. Confused and terrified, she creaked the door open ever so slightly. What she saw, she could not explain. She saw what looked like two Victorian children stood over the crib of her newborn son, whispering to each other.
You pick him up.
No, you pick him up.
She pushed open the door, and as she did, the children just disappeared. She scooped up her son and rushed back to her bedroom. This isn't the only time the ghosts of these children have been seen. My ex's dad had also seen them both sat on an old church pew that was used as a bench in the back garden. A few nights later, my ex-girlfriend's mother was doing a night feed. Nothing unusual when you have a baby, and this was just a normal night. She was woken to the sound of her baby crying. She went to check on her son, and as you can imagine, he's screaming for a feed. Tired, she goes to head downstairs to prepare a bottle. It's 2 a.m. As she gets to the corner of the stairwell, she sees what she can only describe as a ball of light in the corner of the stairwell. She says she was staring at it, just staring wide-eyed at this, again what she described as a burning ball of light. She says she stared at it until it just burnt out. She didn't panic. She walked into the kitchen to continue preparing the bottle for the night feed. Strange, yeah? It gets stranger. As she walked into the kitchen, she sees the time on the microwave. 6 a.m. She had been staring at this ball of light for 4 whole hours, unaware of how much time had passed. Now, at the time of being told these stories, I was very sceptical, until I'd had an experience of my own in the house. My girlfriend's brother had said that he'd seen a woman or a girl walking around the house wearing a polka dot dress. That's it. He doesn't know who she was or why she was there. I, on the other hand, and her brother then saw something much more sinister. One time, my ex-girlfriend and I were in the front room. Now, in this living room, there is a glass cabinet facing the sofa which reflects the kitchen door. I couldn't see the doorway directly, but I could see it in the reflection. We were watching TV, and just out of the corner of my eye, in the reflection of the cabinet, I can see movement behind me near the kitchen door. I turned my head to look behind me, and all I could see is a dark, shadowy mass stood in the kitchen doorway, perfectly formed in the shape of a man. Thinking there's someone else in the house, I bolt up and checked every room in the house. I'm not the only person to see this shadow figure. A few weeks later, my ex's brother is in the living room playing on his games console, while me and my ex were upstairs. Suddenly, we both heard panicked footsteps running up the stairs. Her brother bursts into the room and is visibly scared. We asked him what happened, and he goes to explain this. I was just sat playing on my game in the living room, and I saw a shadow of a man peer around the kitchen door, look at me, and then shoot back into the kitchen. This story was told to me by my nail technician. I don't know how we got onto the subject of ghosts or the paranormal, but this was her personal experience. She'd just bought a brand new BMW. It had all the latest gadgets a new car could possibly have. Now she drives the same route to and from work every single day. And since she had bought this new car, she had started noticing something strange on a certain part of her journey. There's a railway bridge she crosses on her route to and from work. Every time she passes over this bridge, a warning light flashes up on the dashboard saying that there's a person in front of the car when she drives over this certain bridge. This kept happening over and over, but only in the evening. She decided to do some research on the bridge. She discovered that there had been a fatal road traffic accident where sadly a young man had died on that very bridge. Now, is this new car with fancy gadgets detecting the spirit of this lost soul? How do we explain this?
Just want to say a massive thank you to Sophie for reading out those 3 listener stories. I actually know the 3 people these stories belong to, and these stories were just told to me in passing, and I've had voice notes through them with them as well, but I was going to put the voice notes on, but I think it'd better if we get them narrated, and I think they sound pretty good. If you like this kind of thing on this podcast, let me know and I can do more of it. But let's have a let's not take them apart, but let's just have a bit of a chat about these stories. So yeah, I mean, the wardrobe story, I mean, you do hear of stuff like that, and it's probably like maybe the building of the wardrobe was like maybe a trigger or something. Like I've said many times before in this podcast, I am no way in any way an expert on this kind of thing, but I've listened to a lot of stories in the past, obviously watched a lot of TV shows and stuff like residual energy. It could just be that, I don't know, it could be anything. And I just think, yeah, maybe the build of that wardrobe maybe triggered the energy. We've spoke about the stone tape theory as well, very loosely in the episode with Olivia. I mean, yeah, under the right conditions maybe, but it seems quite sequenced, like it happened every time at 7 p.m. I think that's pretty weird, but obviously the person moved out and that was it. And yeah, the story with the Victorian children now obviously going off the fact that the house was built on old consecrated ground over a graveyard. Now we've heard this, I've personally heard this on a lot of stories, a lot of accounts as well, where especially when they were doing the digging out the London Underground a couple of 100 years ago, whenever it was, they were digging through plague pits and stuff like that and moving dead bodies and all sorts of stuff, and that obviously has not interrupted, what's the word, like disturbed the ground and disturbed supposed spirits and stuff like that. And I think it's probably in the realms of possibility. Obviously none of us 100% know what's going on, but that's what seems to have happened. Or maybe it's like a time slip thing, or different timelines being like crossing over with each other. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, the ball of light as well that she was staring at on the stairs. Now you hear stuff like that in alien encounters and abduction and stuff like that. Not UFOs, because that's UFOs, but like abduction encounters, you know what I mean? And maybe it is that, maybe it isn't, but I've never really heard of somebody staring at a ball of light for 4 hours without knowing the time has passed. I've heard stories where people have been driving down roads and stuff like that, and then the car stops and they're followed by a light, and then the car is pointing in the opposite direction and they're still driving, but an hour and a half's passed or something. I can't off the top of my head remember what story that is, but I've listened to that much stuff in the last 4 years, it's impossible to tell which one it is. But yeah, and the one you know, you've seen it when I will post a video actually of this down below, but there's videos of people, like especially in Teslas, you know, they've got that thing where you can see if there is a figure in the road or a human. Obviously it detects cars and stuff like that, but these people are driving through like graveyards and stuff, and there's like, you can see the figure of a person walking towards them, but they're driving through these graveyards at like, well, during the day. So you can see there is nobody there, but on the screen it's showing up as somebody. I don't know, is that the spirit of a person? Who knows? It could be a bird. I don't know. It could be anything I don't know. I've no idea, but it's still pretty weird. I'll post a video of that in the in the description of this episode, just so you can see what I mean. But again, it's like she doesn't have this problem when she is driving anywhere else. It only seems to happen on this specific bridge. I mean, these stories all occur in the north of England. These are all around the suburbs of Manchester. I don't know which bridge it is. I did ask, but obviously for reasons that they're not going to. Well, she's not going to tell me because it's a bit disrespectful, innit? Obviously, I wouldn't post it on here or talk about it on here. But I mean, you do hear of repeated hauntings and stuff like that. It's like a spirit hanging around the place where they've had a traumatic death. Again, I'm no expert. I've heard this on other stories before where the spirit or the energy of a person remains in the place where they died. Maybe they can't move. They can't move on. They don't know what's happened to. I've heard stories where people have, where supposed spirits have, like, they don't know they're dead. That's what I'm trying to say. They don't actually know they're dead, so they're just hanging about. I don't know, but I still think these stories are pretty cool. And if you have your own story you want me to talk about, or we can get Sophie to narrate your story on this podcast, then it'd be greatly appreciated. As I've said many times before, I'm on TikTok, Facebook and Instagram. If you would like to send me your stories, it's ghostsandthat@gmail.com. And if you want to send me a voice note on any of my socials, that's fine as well. If you want to send in anonymous stories, that's fine as well. Either way, just let me know if you want your name on it. If you don't, that's fine. We can do a Zoom interview if you like I did with Olivia and like I did with Liam, aka William Seagrave, Lady in the Bay Window. We can do that. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. The one story that stuck with me today more out of all of them was the Victorian children. Now, that's pretty creepy, that, innit? What would you do? What would you do in that situation? I'd like to know what you do in that situation, because I know what I'd do. I'd probably just shut the door and go, nope. You know what I mean? But I don't know. We're all different, aren't we? Anyway, if you've enjoyed this episode, follow me on Spotify. Find the links to all the socials will be in the description of this episode. And yeah, you know what I'm going to say. Until next time, people, keep an eye out for them ghosts and that.